Alright, we're here pruning apples today. This is a Cortland tree. What we're going to try to do is make a lateral limb. You don't want a lot of vertical growth. So what we're going to do is cut off everything that sticks up really high and doesn't have a lot of buds on it. You don't have to cut all the snips close to the main branch. If you leave 2 or 3 buds on each one, you'll find that in the summertime, around the 20th of June, you can come back and recut that for summer pruning. We'll have a different video on that in the summertime. So what we're trying to do now is just cut out anything that'll block the sun from hitting the lower apples. Because we are majorly a pick-your-own orchard, we do not want apples that are really high in the tree. We try to keep everything between the 4 and 6 foot level. Usually you probably cut off a quarter of the growth of last year's growth. Maybe a little bit more depending if the tree is extremely vigorous and grows well. We also don't want anything that goes below the knees, because if the growth goes below the knees, we end up getting into all our equipment and we lose those apples anyway. So we just work our way around, try to cut any of the taller branches back into the tree so the high branches are short branches. The longer branches want to be at the bottom around your waist. Work your way right around the tree. For the homeowner, the summer pruning will probably be, you only do a few major cuts this time of year, and you can do more summer pruning when you know where the apples are. But here, we have more time now, so we do most of our cutting in the early spring, because in June we don't have enough time to spend a lot of time pruning in the orchard. We have about 600 apple trees. It takes us, 2 men can probably do all of the pruning in, I don't know, a week and a half maybe. Then after that we have to do peaches and move on to the apples. Move on to the blueberries. See, I just cut off this big lateral branch. The buds here these are going to be apple buds. I know it looks like I cut off a lot of them, but I don't want the tree growing straight up. These here, the ones that aren't really fuzzy here in March, they're going to be leaf buds. You're trying to eliminate as many leaf buds because that just shades the tree out. Apples grow on 2-year-old wood, so you have to have at least some vegetative growth carrying over from year to year to keep making new buds. Another thing about Cortland trees are, as the wood is very soft, so as the apple grows, the wood bends down and it gives you this umbrella effect. Other varieties such as Macintosh, McCowan's, Delicious, they don't do that so much. They grow more straight up and it's very hard to get them to lay flat. The thing about apple trees are the terminal bud right here on the end. That's the bud that feeds carbohydrates back into the tree. The more carbohydrates that go back into the tree, the more vegetative growth. So what you try to do is to get a flatter branch. The flatter the branch is, more of these buds will become fruit-growing buds, and less of them will become leaf-bearing buds. That's why all the main limbs in this tree are out flat. We try to pull them down. It's even better if you have a little arc in them. If you can have an arc in the limb, then the carbohydrates can't go back so fast and it slows the tree down, which means it makes more apples. So we keep cutting off all this stuff that goes straight up. Try to thin out anything that's crossing over each other because you don't want limb damage from the wind blowing limbs against each other. Anything going back into the middle of the tree you try to cut out because that will just create shade. We have some other limiting effects that we figure in when we're pruning. A lot of it is like here, we have to be able to walk between the two trees, so that limits how long these branches can be. And when you look down the row, we have to have only about 6 feet from the trunk of the tree to the drip line, so our mowers and everything work the way they should. But as you can see, the winter time is filled with a lot more maintenance of the orchard than most people think. In the summertime, they just come and pick apples in the fall, and we're just trying to show you all that we do to make it nice for when you come. It's a nice, enjoyable day. You can get trees that you can reach the apples, have good size apples, and make it worth picking. We really try to prune them low so everybody in the family can reach the apples. So the kids can have a good time picking them, so teenagers don't have to climb the tree and hurt themselves or hurt the tree. It makes maintenance for us a lot easier if you can just reach most of the tree from the ground and not use a ladder. Every time you have to climb a ladder, it slows down your production. One thing we hear a lot is the nicest apples are always in the top of the tree. That's not necessarily the case. It seems that way when you're looking at the ground, but most of the time when you get up there, they're the same size apples as they are on the ground. And if you prune your tree correctly, you'll have just as nice apples down here because the tree's growing healthy, the sun's reaching them, it's thinned out nice, so you should get the same quality of apples down low as up high. Mostly it's the human factor of what I can't reach, I want more than what I can reach. Up here we'll just thin out the top, keep the top limbs inside the bottom limbs so the sun hits it more like a Christmas tree. You do not want the top limbs hanging over the bottom limbs, because if the bottom limbs don't get enough sun, they won't develop buds in the summertime, which is when an apple bud grows from a leaf bud, develops into an apple bud, is in the summertime. If you limit the amount of sun those buds can receive, they just stay leaf buds, and sooner or later the limb on the bottom will die out from shade. You'll get no new growth, and then your tree just jumps up about 4 feet higher with no apples on the bottom. Same general idea, we'll leave some of these here to keep the top from being sun scalded, because that can happen easily. If you cut out too much wood, you'll actually scald the branch, and that'll ruin the tree as well. So that one's done. That's pretty much it. We have about 600 of those to do a year. Plus we'll have probably 100 peach trees and 1/4 acre of blueberries to do. So now all we have to do is pick up the brush.